My fiancé said, "I kept a secret because you'd overreact." I said, "Then keep it without me." I canceled the wedding. By noon, the venue was frozen, the ring was locked away, and her mother was calling me instead of defending her. She thought I'd forgive her by dinner. I was already done. I'm Grant, 35, male, from Raleigh, North Carolina. My fiancée, Leila, is 31. We were together a little over 4 years, engaged for 9 months and supposed to be married in 7 weeks. On paper, our relationship looked easy. I work as an IT project manager for a healthcare software company. Solid job, quiet life, good credit. I bought my townhouse near North Hills 3 years before I met Leila. She works in social media for a restaurant group. She's polished, photogenic, and one of those people who can make even a grocery run look curated. We weren't a chaotic couple. We weren't the couple our friends expected to implode. If anything, we were the pair people used as an example when they wanted to talk about maturity. That was the image anyway. The real thing was more complicated. Leila had always been private about her past. Not in a mysterious, romantic way. In a controlled way. She would tell stories in clean little pieces, just enough to satisfy a question, never enough to invite a second one. She told me she'd had one serious relationship before me, said it ended badly, said the guy was manipulative, selfish, impossible to get away from. I respected that and didn't push. That's what you do when someone says they came out of something painful. You don't interrogate them like a detective. The only direct thing I had ever asked was simple. Had she ever been married? She laughed and said, "God, no." So I believed her. By the time this happened, we'd already paid most of the big wedding costs. The venue in Chapel Hill had a $3,600 deposit down. The caterer had another $2,400. Photographer was $1,250. The live strings for the ceremony were $600. We had a wedding account we both used, but I funded most of it. Around $17,800 from me, about $6,100 from her. Not because I was keeping score, just because I made more and wanted the day handled. That Thursday, I was at the kitchen island going over final guest count numbers because the planner wanted them by 5. My laptop had died, so I used Leila's. She knew I was using it. She'd texted me earlier asking me to check the catering spreadsheet while she was at a late lunch with her friend Kelsey. I had the spreadsheet open when an email banner dropped across the top of the screen. Reminder, status conference in dissolution matter, Davidson County Chancery Court. I stared at it for a second. Then I clicked. Maybe I shouldn't have. Maybe some people would say it was invasive. I really don't care. When you are 7 weeks from marrying someone and their laptop calmly announces an active court date for a dissolution matter, privacy becomes a lower priority than basic reality. The email was from a family law office in Nashville. It referenced a case number, a hearing date 8 days away, and the matter name, Leila versus Owen. Not Leila and an old boyfriend. Leila and Owen. Husband and wife. I didn't panic. I didn't call her screaming. I didn't throw anything. I wrote down the case number on a sticky note, opened the county portal, and searched it. There it was. Marriage filed in 2021. Separation filing started 8 months earlier, not finalized, still active. I sat there for a long time just staring at the screen. Then I opened the wedding account activity because I suddenly didn't trust anything. It didn't take long. 3 weeks earlier, there had been a transfer out for $4,200 to a firm called Bell & Mercer. Same Nashville address as the email footer. I remember laughing once, just once, not because it was funny, because it was so stupidly clear. She wasn't only still married, she had used wedding money to manage the secret. Leila came home around 6:20 carrying iced coffee and a shopping bag with bridesmaid gifts in it. She walked in smiling, still halfway in her phone, and said, "Did you finish the seating thing?" I said, "Who's Owen?" That stopped everything. She set the bag down slowly and looked at me, not confused, not innocent, just annoyed that the timing had gone bad. I turned the laptop toward her. The email was still open. She closed her eyes for maybe 2 seconds, exhaled, and said, "It's not what you think." I said, "That sentence has never once improved a situation." She said, "Owen is my ex." I said, "Owen is your husband." She tried the technical argument first, said they'd been separated forever, said the divorce was basically done, said it was paperwork dragging because Nashville courts were backed up and Owen had been difficult about a car and some old tax issue. Then she pivoted and said she hadn't told me because she knew I'd overreact. Those were her exact words. I kept a secret because I knew you'd overreact. I asked her if I was overreacting to the part where she told me she had never been married, or the part where we'd mailed invitations to a wedding she legally couldn't have. She crossed her arms and got defensive fast, said she was going to have it finalized before the ceremony, said it was none of my business until it affected the wedding date, said I was making it bigger than it was. I asked about the $4,200 transfer to the law firm. That's when she looked away. She said she was going to replace it. I asked from where. She said that wasn't the point. That actually made my decision for me. Because when someone is caught in a lie that big and their instinct is still to manage your reaction instead of tell the truth, you are not dealing with a mistake. You are dealing with a system. I said, then keep it without me. She blinked. Like she'd misheard me, I repeated it. If the secret mattered so little she could keep it, she just wasn't keeping me with it. She went from defensive to soft in about 3 seconds, sat down, started crying, said she didn't mean it like that, said she was embarrassed, said she wanted one clean chapter that was hers, not poisoned by old paperwork and old shame. She said she was still the same person I loved that morning, maybe, but I wasn't the same person listening to her that evening. I told her the wedding was off. She said, don't be dramatic. I picked up my phone and called the venue in front of her, then the caterer, then the photographer, then the planner. Some deposits were gone. Fine. I froze everything else before more money went out, lost the venue deposit, lost part of the florist deposit too. But I stopped another $6,000 in scheduled payments from clearing the next week, and that mattered more. Leela kept saying, Grant, stop. Grant, this is insane. Grant, we can talk about this tomorrow. I said, tomorrow won't make you less married tonight. That shut her up for a moment. I took the ring box from the bedroom, put it in the home safe, changed the password on the wedding account app, and sent myself copies of every statement from the last 6 months. Then I told her she needed to stay somewhere else for a few days while we figured out logistics. She said I couldn't throw her out. I said I wasn't. I was telling her she wasn't sleeping in my house tonight after lying to my face for 4 years. She called Kelsey from the driveway. Loud crying. Fractured version of the story. By the time she left with an overnight bag, I'd already gotten the first text from an unknown number calling me cruel. I slept about 4 hours that night. Not because I was torn, because my mind wouldn't stop replaying the small moments that suddenly looked different. The times she refused to combine travel documents, the way she insisted all wedding paperwork stay digital, the reason she never wanted a courthouse ceremony for the aesthetic, the way she dodged direct questions and then made me feel rude for asking them. By morning, I wasn't sad anymore. I was organized. I called my sister, Paige, before work, told her everything. Read the email out loud, sent screenshots. She was quiet for a second and then said, Grant, if you marry her after this, I'm throwing wine on your suit myself. I told her that wouldn't be necessary. Then I went to work and got through my meetings like nothing had happened, because sometimes the calmest thing you can do is continue moving. Update 4 days later, the flying monkeys arrived right on schedule. Kelsey texted first, said Leela was devastated, humiliated, and too ashamed to leave her guest room. Said I had taken a painful chapter from Leela's past and weaponized it against her. I replied once with a screenshot of the active court case and the $4,200 transfer to the Nashville firm. Then I muted her. 20 minutes later, Leela's cousin Harper messaged me on Instagram asking if it was true that I dumped Leela over old trauma paperwork. That phrase actually impressed me. Trauma paperwork. Clean, marketable, total nonsense. I didn't answer Harper. I was learning fast that truth only matters to people who want it. That same afternoon, I got a call from Leela's mother, Denise. I expected a fight. Instead, she sounded tired. Not angry, tired. She said, Leela told me you canceled the wedding because of some technical issue with her divorce. I'm calling because that sentence makes no sense, and I would like the version that does. So I gave it to her, start to finish. The email, the court portal, the transfer from the wedding account, the fact that Leela had explicitly told me she had never been married. I even forwarded Denise the screenshots while we were on the phone. There was a long silence on her end. Then she said she told us that was finalized over a year ago. I said it wasn't. She said, I can see that. That was the first moment somebody from Leela's side stopped defending the performance and looked at the facts. Denise also did not know about the $4,200 transfer. That one hit her harder. She said she had already paid $1,800 toward the rehearsal dinner, and Leela had sworn she was finally done dealing with Nashville. Apparently that phrase meant something very different to Leela than it did to everyone else. Before we hung up, Denise said, I'm not asking you to change your mind. I just needed to know whether my daughter lied to me too. I told her I was sorry for the answer. She said, so am I. Meanwhile, Leela had shifted from apology to image control. She posted a black and white story on Instagram that said, some men will punish you for what you survived instead of loving you through it. No names. Of course not, just bait. 3 women replied publicly that she deserved softness. One man wrote, tell your truth. Someone else commented, he was never your husband in spirit. I nearly admired the creativity. I did not respond. I spent that weekend boxing her things. Not in anger, in rows. Shoes in one set of bins. Makeup in another. Framed photos wrapped in towels, her office supplies, jewelry tray, hair tools, winter coats. The little ceramic bowl by the door that held every random thing she never put away. I made a spreadsheet of what went where because by then I trusted documentation more than memory. On Saturday afternoon, while I was packing, the doorbell camera notified me that someone was at the back entrance. It was Leela. She still had the garage code. She let herself in, looked around, realized most of her stuff was already sorted and started crying in the kitchen. Not private crying, camera-aware crying. She set her phone up against the fruit bowl at one point. I saw her do it later on playback. She walked into the bedroom, opened the safe drawer even though the safe itself was locked, and then texted me immediately, so you took the ring too? I replied it was mine to take. Then I drove home, changed the garage code, called a locksmith, and had the front locks rekeyed for $240. When I got back, she was gone, but she had taken the wedding binder, 3 pairs of shoes, and 2 decorative baskets she never even liked. Emotional looting. Very efficient. Monday morning, I met with a local attorney named Wes for a consultation. $600. Worth every cent. He told me the ring in North Carolina was a conditional gift tied to marriage, which meant I should keep the receipt and keep it locked up. He also told me to stop communicating emotionally and start communicating like someone who might need a judge later. So I did. I rented a climate-controlled storage unit for $178 a month, prepaid 2 months, moved the rest of her belongings there, and emailed her a list with the unit number, gate hours, and inventory. I wrote, you have 60 days to move your property. After that, I'm no longer responsible for it. She replied 4 times in 12 minutes, you are unbelievable. This is financial abuse. You're punishing me because you can't handle complexity. You always wanted a perfect woman with no history. That last line would have bothered me more if she hadn't literally hidden an active husband. Work, on the other hand, got easier. I stopped checking my phone every 6 minutes. I started sleeping. I got through a product rollout that had been dragging for months, and my director told me I looked more focused than I had in a year. Funny how clarity frees up bandwidth. The quiet almost felt suspicious. Then came week 3. Update 2 at 1:14 a.m. on a Wednesday, Leela texted me from a new number. I think I might be pregnant. We need to talk. Classic. Not because pregnancy is a joke. It isn't. But because timing tells its own story, and this arrived the same day her last attempt to get sympathy online had flopped. I did not call. I texted back, if that's true, email me the doctor information tomorrow. No response. At 9:30 the next morning, Denise called. She sounded embarrassed. She said, "I am not excusing this, but she is not pregnant. She took a test after she texted you. It was negative. She's upset and not thinking clearly." I said, "Thank you for telling me." That was all. No dramatic speech, no victory lap, just another entry in the folder. 2 days later, 2 police officers showed up at my townhouse. Leela had reported that I was withholding her passport, grandmother's pearl earrings, and an engagement set gifted unconditionally. I invited the officers in, sat them at the dining table, and pulled out the folder I had started after Wes told me to stop acting like a boyfriend and start acting like a witness. I showed them the storage unit inventory, photos of her passport in the travel pouch where I had packed it, and the ring receipt from the jeweler in Raleigh. I also showed them the email where I gave her access information to retrieve all of it. One officer actually nodded while flipping through the pages. He said this appears to be a civil dispute, not theft. I said that seemed to be a pattern. They left. I emailed Wes immediately. That afternoon, Leela escalated again. She showed up in my office lobby, not screaming. That would have been easier. She came in soft, tearful, holding a folder, and told reception she was my fiancée and there had been a misunderstanding about wedding funds. My receptionist, thank God, called me before sending her up. I went down because I didn't want a scene on the 3rd floor. She looked exhausted. Mascara free, neutral clothes, the whole good woman after adversity costume. She said she just wanted closure. I said closure doesn't happen in my office lobby. She lowered her voice and asked if we could at least talk in the parking deck. Said she was drowning. Said Owen had become difficult since he found out the wedding was off. Said her Nashville attorney was demanding more money. Said she never meant for any of this to happen. I asked one question. Did you ever plan to tell me before the wedding? She stared at me, which was answer enough. Then she said I was trying to fix it first. I told her that's what people say when they want credit for secrets they didn't solve. Security arrived a minute later. She left without raising her voice, which somehow felt more manipulative than if she had. After that, Wes sent a cease and desist letter. Cost me another $525. It told her to stop contacting me directly, stop coming to my home and workplace, stop making false property claims, and stop attempting to interfere with wedding vendor refunds. That last one mattered because, yes, she had done that too. My photographer called me on Friday asking whether I had changed banks for the refund. I had not. Leela had emailed from an address that was one letter off mine, claiming we had reconciled privately and wanted the partial refund sent to a different Zelle number. That was the moment I stopped seeing her as messy and started seeing her as dangerous. I sent the photographer the letter from Wes, the original cancellation email and my ID. Refund went where it was supposed to. Leela got nothing. Somewhere in all that chaos, my life kept moving. I got promoted to senior IT operations lead. $10,000 raise. More responsibility. Better title. My director congratulated me over coffee and said, "Whatever you've changed recently, keep doing it." I almost laughed. The only major thing I had changed was removing a liar from my future. I also started having dinner once a week with Maya, a physical therapist I'd met through Paige's husband at a backyard cookout months earlier. It wasn't dramatic. No affair, no revenge dating, no social media reveal. Just a calm woman who answered direct questions directly. First dinner was tacos in downtown Raleigh. Second was coffee after work. By the third one, I realized how strange it had become, in the best possible way, to speak to someone and not feel like I was walking around a trapdoor. Leela found out, of course. Not from me. From the same mutual network that had carried half her edited version of events. Her response was immediate. 3 voicemails in one evening. The first cried. The second accused. The third said, "I hope she's worth the humiliation you put me through." That voicemail made the hearing easy later, because that was the center of everything with Leela. Not truth, not remorse, humiliation. She could lie, hide, transfer money, and build a wedding on top of an unfinished marriage, but the real injury in her mind was always that I refused to help her pretend. So I filed civil no-contact order, home and workplace, 1 year. I attached the emails, the fake refund request, the police report number, the voicemail transcripts, the office lobby incident summary from security, the false pregnancy text, and the original court notice that started all of it. Her secret had come from a court file. Now so had my response. Final update: the hearing was 5 weeks later. Leela showed up in a cream blouse and low heels, looking like somebody had told her to dress as reasonable as possible. Wes was beside me with a binder thick enough to make the point before he even opened it. Leela didn't bring an attorney. She brought posture. When the judge asked why she continued contacting me after I had clearly ended the relationship, she said she was trying to resolve shared finances and personal property. She said I had reacted impulsively to an old legal issue she was already handling. She called it a misunderstanding that spiraled. Wes handed over the packet. The judge spent several minutes reading silently. Then he asked Leela whether she had told me she had never been married. She said she hadn't used those exact words. Wes slid over the screenshot from years earlier where I had asked, "So, no previous marriage baggage, right?" And she had replied, "None. I promise." The judge looked up and said, "That seems fairly exact." Then he asked about the fake refund email. Leela tried to say she was only trying to recover money she had contributed. The judge asked why she did that from an email address made to resemble mine. She had no answer that sounded adult. Then he read one of the voicemail lines out loud, "I hope she's worth the humiliation you put me through." That was the sentence that finished it. The judge granted the no-contact order for a year. No contact through phone, email, social media, third parties, workplace visits, or home visits. He also told her very clearly that closure is not something you force on another person after repeated deception and unwanted contact. After the hearing, Denise caught me outside the courthouse. She looked older than the last time I'd seen her, not in years, in weight. Like the whole situation had settled on her shoulders. She handed me an envelope. Inside was a cashier's check for $2,500. She said, "It's not all of it, but it's what I could get back from what she moved around. I know this doesn't fix it." I told her she didn't know me personally. She said maybe not, but somebody does. Then she said the thing I think mattered most. You didn't leave because she had a past. You left because she built your future on a lie. That was it exactly. Not the marriage by itself, not the court date, not even the money. The lie. Over the next month, the rest of the story finished collapsing on its own. Owen's divorce from Leela was finalized in Tennessee. Leela moved out of Raleigh and went back to Nashville to stay with an aunt. 2 of the bridesmaids quietly apologized to me after Denise apparently corrected the family version. The partial vendor refunds landed where they should. I sold the ring back to the jeweler for $5,800 and used some of it to replace the guest room furniture with a desk and a reading chair. Meyer and I kept seeing each other, slowly, like adults with jobs and calendars and no hidden spouses. At work, I stepped fully into the new role. Better money, better hours, less dread. Turns out when you aren't burning emotional energy on someone else's secret architecture, you get a lot done. I still think about one part sometimes, how close I came. 7 weeks, that was it. 7 weeks from legally tying myself to someone who believed concealment was just strategy with better lighting. If that email had popped up a month later, I might have been standing in a suit smiling for photos while my wife was still married to someone else on paper and quietly using wedding money to clean it up. That's the part that stays with me. People love saying everyone has secrets. Sure, fine. Everyone has private thoughts, embarrassing stories, old mistakes, things they're not proud of. But a secret that changes another person's ability to consent isn't privacy. It's manipulation. If you are asking someone to marry you while hiding a legal spouse, moving shared money to manage the lie, and planning to explain it later, you are not protecting your peace. You are stealing theirs. Leela kept saying I overreacted. I don't think I reacted enough. I think I just reacted in time. If you've ever found out someone built a relationship on a secret and expected you to stay quiet about it, comment below and tell me what you would have done. Subscribe, like, and share if you think more people need to hear that secrets stop being private the moment they take away your choice.